The first time I realized the bedroom door was locked from the outside, I didn't scream. Not out loud. I lay on my back in the upstairs room of the Brooks family lake house, staring at a ceiling fan that turned too slowly, as if it was thinking about stopping. The lamp on the nightstand threw a narrow wedge of light across the quilt. Everything else sat in shadow, corners, closet, the thin seam under the door where the hallway light bled through like a blade. Then I heard footsteps, not Marcus's heavy, certain stride. These were lighter, cautious, like whoever walked didn't want the floorboards to keep evidence. A pause outside my door. A whisper. Two voices braided close together, soft and intimate. "She can't leave tonight." My chest tightened so fast it felt surgical. I slid my hand to the knob and turned it gently, expecting it to give. It didn't. I tried again, slower, then harder. The metal refused. Somewhere on the other side, a latch held clean and final. Fear isn't always panic. Sometimes it's math. Sometimes it's the calm voice in your head saying, "Don't give them a reason. Don't make noise. Don't make it easier." I brought my hand back to my ribs and forced air into my lungs. In, out, in, out. I let the fan keep turning. I let the whisper fade into the walls, and I told myself the truth I'd been avoiding since Marcus suggested this weekend. I wasn't on a vacation, I was on a schedule. If you're listening and you're already asking, "Why did you go?" I get it. I asked myself the same thing in the months after. But here's what I learned the hard way. Women don't always walk into traps because they're naive. Sometimes we walk in because we've been trained to believe refusing is more dangerous than going. Marcus Brooks was the kind of husband people trusted. 50 years old, haircut, straight teeth, a partner at an accounting firm that sponsored church drives and youth sports. At service, women squeezed my hand and told me I was blessed. At office parties, men slapped Marcus's back and called him a stand-up guy. Nobody sees what happens when the front door closes. Nobody sees how a stand-up guy can make you feel guilty for having a question. And I had questions. Money missing from our joint account. Late client meetings that happened off the books. His phone flipped face down the second I walked into a room. A new password on his laptop. And the smell, hotel soap, clean and sweet in a way our home never was, clinging to his collar when he crawled into bed at 2 in the morning. When you're married long enough, you stop believing in coincidence. You start believing in patterns. The lake house weekend started as a pattern, too. He came home on a Tuesday, using that soft, careful tone he saved for when he wanted something. Not yelling. The other voice, the one that made you doubt your own instincts. "Mom wants us at the lake house," he said, loosening his tie. "Just the weekend, family tradition. It'll be good for us." Good for us. That's what men say when they mean good for me. I was at the sink, washing dishes that weren't dirty, just giving my hands a task. I looked at Marcus and tried to read his face the way I'd learned to read weather. "In October?" I asked. "It's peaceful," he said. "No distractions. We can talk." We didn't talk anymore. Not in the way that mattered. We exchanged schedules and groceries and polite facts. Real conversation died quietly. In our house, buried under "be reasonable" and "don't start" and "why are you like this?" "Mom's been asking about you," he added, like that was a kindness. His mother, Yvette Brooks, 72 and sharp as broken glass, she believed marriage meant endurance. She believed a wife's job was to keep things looking nice. She could bless you with a smile and cut you with the same breath. I nodded like a woman who trusted her husband. That was the role Marcus liked. Inside, something stayed very still. Because a week earlier, I'd found a receipt in his suit pocket. Marina rental, 2 nights. A town I'd never visited. In the corner, a name scribbled in ink that wasn't his. Janelle. At 2 a.m., while Marcus slept beside me like a man without guilt, I opened my phone and typed, "Husband cheating at lake house." It felt embarrassing, desperate, but the search results were worse. Story after story that sounded like my life with different names. The words that kept appearing were the ones Marcus hated most. Gaslighting wife. Control. Isolation. Escalation. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I prepared. On Thursday, I bought an audio recorder the size of a car key. I told myself it was for my peace of mind, but I knew the truth. Secret recording exposes affair is the kind of sentence women whisper to themselves when they're tired of being told they imagined everything. I texted my sister Tasha and warned her I might be out of reach this weekend. She replied instantly, "Are you safe?" I typed back, "I will be if I stay smart." Smart meant not giving Marcus a scene he could use against me. Smart meant staying calm even when my skin wanted to crawl. Smart meant collecting proof like breadcrumbs, because in my marriage, facts were the only thing stronger than his voice. Friday afternoon, Marcus packed the car with quiet efficiency. Suit bag, leather duffel, cooler of drinks, groceries that would become my responsibility the second we arrived. He promised coffee on the road. He promised a reset. He promised. The drive out of Houston was gray and long. Marcus played classic rock and tapped the steering wheel like he was heading toward something relaxing. I watched the city dissolve into pine and open land. Cell service dropped from full bars to 2, then 1, then nothing. At one point, Marcus glanced at my phone and said, "You won't need that out here." He said it like a joke. I didn't laugh. We turned off the highway onto a narrow road lined with trees that leaned in close, like they were listening. The sky looked lower between the branches. The gravel under the tires sounded like teeth. A faded sign flashed by. Lake Merrow, public access. Under it, smaller, emergency services limited. Marcus didn't comment. He just drove. Then the cabin appeared through the trees. 2 stories of gray wood, wide porch, dark windows reflecting the lake like black mirrors. A dock reached into the water like a finger pointing at something deep. Yvette waited on the porch in a cream cardigan and pearls, her smile bright and empty. "Danny," she said, opening her arms. "You made it." I stepped into her hug and smelled heavy floral perfume. Her embrace was light, polite. A performance. Marcus kissed her cheek. "Hey, Mom." She patted his face like he was still 10. "My handsome boy." Then her gaze slid to me. "Come in. We've got dinner started." Inside, the cabin was immaculate. Symmetry everywhere, throw pillows aligned like soldiers, a stone fireplace set with decor that looked untouched. It smelled like cedar and lemon cleaner. The first thing I noticed wasn't the furniture. It was a small suitcase by the coat rack. Black, hard shell, weekend-sized. Too sleek to be Yvette's old luggage. Too small to be Marcus's suit bag. Not mine. My eyes flicked to Marcus. He didn't look at it. He walked right past, as if the suitcase had always been there. "Guest room on the left," Yvette said. "You two can take the master." Guest room. Not your room. Guest. Temporary, replaceable. Upstairs, the hallway was narrow and dim. The boards creaked in certain spots. Spots you'd learn if you lived here long enough to know where the house gave you away. Marcus chose the right-hand bedroom without asking. He set his bag down and said, "This one." The bed was made tight, quilt folded with harsh precision. 2 lamps, 2 nightstands, symmetry. Of course. I started to speak, and Marcus cut me off without looking up. "Don't start." Quiet, the worst tone. The one that meant punishment was being calculated. Downstairs, dinner was already staged. Roast chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes, cloth napkins, good china. Yvette didn't cook like this for relaxation. She cooked like this for announcements. Marcus sat at the head of the table like it was automatic. I took the chair across from him. 6 feet of wood felt like nothing. Yvette poured wine into 3 glasses. "I didn't know you drank red," I said, hearing how thin my voice sounded. Yvette's smile sharpened. "Oh, this is a favorite. Janelle likes it too." The name hit the room like a dropped plate. Marcus's hand tightened around his glass for a heartbeat, then relaxed. He took a sip like nothing happened. I stared at Yvette. "Janelle?" "Oh, didn't Marcus tell you?" she asked, innocence polished to a shine. "Such a sweet girl. She's been helping him with work things. Work things. That's what people call it when they don't want to say affair out loud. Marcus set his glass down. Mom, he said, warning. Yvette waved a hand. What? I'm making conversation. Danny, you've been so quiet lately. We miss your chatter. My chatter. Like my voice was a lamp she could turn on and off. I kept my face smooth. Inside, my mind took inventory. A suitcase that wasn't mine. A wine Janelle likes. A mother-in-law who said the name like she enjoyed the taste. A husband who didn't correct her. After dinner, Marcus went outside to check the dock. Yvette cleared plates with brisk efficiency, then leaned on the counter, owning the space the way she owned her son. Marriage is work, she said. Men get tired. They need peace at home. I rinsed a plate under water too hot for comfort. Peace, I repeated. Yes, she said. Not interrogation, not moods, not suspicion. Her eyes fixed on me when she said it, and I understood the message. If you speak, you'll be the problem. I dried my hands slowly. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear. Yvette's smile disappeared for a fraction of a second. Her eyes went flat. Careful, Danny. Then the smile returned, bright as porcelain. Why don't you rest? Long drive. Upstairs, Marcus wasn't in the bedroom yet. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the cabin settle. Water slapped softly against the shore. Wind pressed at the windows like fingertips. My phone showed no service. The Wi-Fi network appeared on the screen. Brooks guessed, password protected. Of course! From somewhere downstairs, I heard Marcus laugh. Low, private, not meant for me. Another voice answered, higher, bright, a laugh that sounded like someone who didn't have to earn safety. I slipped the tiny recorder from my purse and clicked it on. The red light blinked once, like an eye opening. Then I heard the knock at the front door. 2 quick taps, confident. A woman's voice carried up the stairwell, cheerful and certain. Hi, it's me, Janelle. My mouth went dry. Marcus answered too fast. You made good time. Yvette's voice followed, warm as honey. Come in, sweetheart. We were just finishing up. I stood and moved to the window. The porch light threw a weak circle onto the yard. A car sat in the driveway that hadn't been there earlier, small and sleek, the kind you buy when you want to be noticed. The front door opened. Laughter floated into the night, and the weekend's true itinerary slid into focus. Mother-in-law set up my husband affair wasn't a paranoid thought anymore. It was the room I was standing in. I watched shadows move in the living room below. I saw my reflection in the glass. Older, steadier, quieter than the woman I used to be. Then I looked at my hands. They weren't shaking. Not yet. Because somewhere beneath the fear, a colder thought rose and settled like stone. If they wanted a performance, I could give them one. If they wanted me outnumbered, I would make sure there was a witness before this weekend ended. I turned from the window and reached for my phone, thumb hovering over Tasha's name. No signal. I exhaled, set the phone down, and did what survival has taught women for generations. I smiled. Not because I was happy, because I was planning. And if you're still with me, don't go anywhere. Because the moment I heard Janelle's voice downstairs, I knew this wasn't a weekend getaway. It was a trap. Hit like if you felt that chill, and drop a comment telling me what time you're listening and what city you're in. Because I promise you, the most dangerous part of this story is still ahead. I used to think the scariest thing about Marcus's cheating was the betrayal. I know better now. Betrayal is loud in movies. Lipstick on a collar, a surprise text, a slammed door. What I lived with was quieter, a slow rearranging of reality until you stop trusting your own eyes. That's what gaslighting really is. Not one lie, but a whole weather system you're forced to breathe. Marcus and I met when I was 32. He was charming in that practiced way men learn when they've been praised for being solid. He talked about stability like it was romance. I wanted safe, and he looked safe. His mother, Yvette Brooks, loved me at first. She called me a good girl, the way you compliment a dog for sitting. At our wedding, she hugged me too tight and whispered, "Take care of my son. He's special." I didn't understand that special meant entitled. The first year was fine. Then the rules started appearing, tiny at first, like dust. Don't talk about money at dinner. Don't tell Tasha our business. Don't question me in front of anyone. Every don't arrived wrapped in reason, concern, love. If I pushed back, Marcus didn't explode. He got quiet. He'd look at me like I'd failed a test and say softly, "Why are you trying to start something?" That sentence became a trap door. If I answered, I was starting something. If I didn't, I swallowed whatever I felt and called it peace. After a while, I stopped bringing things up at all. My voice shrank. My life got small enough to fit inside Marcus's comfort. Tasha noticed before I did. "You used to laugh," she said one afternoon, sitting at my kitchen table with iced coffee. "Now you sound like you're reading instructions." I told her she was dramatic, that marriage was compromise, that Marcus was stressed. Tasha's eyes didn't blink. "Stress doesn't make a man control you." I changed the subject. I got good at changing the subject. Then the affair started, or at least, the evidence did. It began with a name that kept drifting into our life like smoke. Janelle. The first time I heard it, Marcus was on a call in the garage, voice low. I walked in to grab paper towels, and he snapped, "I'm busy." When he ended the call, he smiled too quickly and said, "Just work, new hire, Janelle." After that, the routines shifted. He stayed later. He got haircuts more often. He bought cologne he swore he'd always liked. He started networking on weekends. One night, I asked, "Are you seeing someone?" Marcus didn't look offended. He looked amused. "Danny, come on, you're being paranoid." Paranoid, crazy, emotional. Those were the words he used like duct tape. They didn't solve anything, but they kept me from moving, so I stopped asking out loud. Instead, I started collecting. Not dramatic things, small confirmations stored quietly so I couldn't be talked out of them later. A screenshot of an unexplained withdrawal. A hotel keycard I found in his suit pocket. A note in my phone, 1:47 a.m. Client emergency, smelled like citrus soap. I started sleeping lighter. Not because I wanted to catch him, but because my body didn't trust the house anymore. I made a hidden cloud folder and labeled it Recipes. Inside were bank statements, photos, and voice memos recorded with my phone face down on the counter while Marcus lectured me about gratitude. He didn't need to be a movie villain. He used his size, his tone, his certainty. He crowded doorways. He stood too close. He'd grip my wrist just hard enough to leave a bruise that could be explained away. And afterward, he'd say, "See? This is why I can't talk to you. You make everything a problem, so I learned to make my planning invisible." Tasha became my lifeline without Marcus realizing it. I told him I'd joined a book club. Twice a month, I met my sister in a grocery store parking lot across town and handed her little envelopes of cash. 20 here, 50 there. Money skimmed from errands Marcus didn't pay attention to. Tasha opened an account in her name and gave me a card. I kept it taped under my dresser drawer where Marcus never looked, because he believed the big things were his and the little things were mine. I bought an audio recorder the size of a car key. I told myself it was for peace of mind, but I knew the truth. A secret recording exposes an affair faster than any argument ever will. Then came the email. Marcus left his laptop open for the first time in years while he showered. The subject line read, "Last night." My stomach didn't drop. It went cold, like ice water through my veins. The message wasn't explicit, not technically. It was worse, familiar. Private jokes, traditions, little confessions disguised as professionalism. At the bottom, Janelle. I photographed everything, every reply, every timestamp. Then I closed the laptop and went back to folding towels like I hadn't just watched my marriage die in real time. That night, Marcus touched my shoulder in bed and said, "You okay?" I swallowed bile and said, "Just tired." He kissed my temple. "Get some sleep." And I understood something with terrifying clarity. Marcus didn't just want to cheat. He wanted to cheat and keep me. He wanted the wife who made his home quiet and respectable. He wanted the mistress who made him feel young and powerful. He wanted both, and he didn't think I deserved the truth. So when he suggested the lake house weekend getaway, I heard what he didn't say. He wanted an audience. Yvette didn't invite us to talk. Yvette invited us to perform. She wanted me to swallow humiliation with a smile, accept Janelle as a sweet girl, prove my devotion by staying polite while my husband stepped on my dignity. And Marcus wanted to see if I would. On the drive out, my phone bled from full bars to nothing. Marcus watched it happen and said, "See? Peace." At the cabin, peace looked like control. A guest Wi-Fi network with a password only he knew, a perfect table setting that felt like a courtroom, and a black suitcase by the coat rack that wasn't mine, wasn't Yvette's, and somehow wasn't Marcus's either. Yet no one acknowledged it. Over chicken and polite smiles, Yvette mentioned Janelle's favorite wine as if she were already family. My husband didn't correct her. He just chewed, swallowed, and let the silence do the work. In that moment, I understood the setup. Mother-in-law set up my husband affair, and I was supposed to sit there and take it. If I protested, I'd be unstable. If I stayed quiet, I'd be forgiven. Either way, they planned to win. And the lake outside waited, dark, patient, listening too. Downstairs that first night, with Janelle's laughter rising through the stairwell, I made a choice I'd been circling for months. I would not confront him in private. I would not give him a scene he could twist into a story about my instability. I would let them think I was outnumbered. And while they played their cabin drama, I would gather what I came for. A clean, undeniable record of what was happening in that house. The recorder blinked once in my palm. I slid it into my bra, right against my skin, where I could feel its tiny warmth like a heartbeat that wasn't afraid. Then I stood, smoothed my face into something calm, and walked downstairs. In the living room, Janelle Hart was perched on the sofa like she belonged there. Legs crossed, hair glossy, sweater too expensive to be casual. She looked up at me with a smile that was almost kind. Marcus stood behind her, with his hand resting on the back of the couch, a casual claim. Yvette moved between them, pouring drinks, hosting. "Danny," Marcus said, voice smooth. "You remember Janelle?" I had never met her, but I nodded anyway and held my smile steady. "Of course," I said. "Hi, Janelle. What a surprise." Janelle's eyes flicked over my face, measuring. "Hi. I hope it's okay." I didn't want to impose. Yvette laughed. "Nonsense. We're family here." Family. The word landed wrong. I looked past them, toward the dark windows. The lake lay out there like a listening thing, flat and patient. The dock light blinked once, then steadied. Somewhere upstairs, a lock clicked softly, like a promise being made. And I realized the weekend had rules, too. I just hadn't seen them written down yet. When you've lived under someone's control long enough, danger stops being a moment. It becomes atmosphere, pressure in the air, a shift in tone, the quiet before a storm. That living room went quiet the second I said, "What a surprise." Marcus lifted his glass anyway. "To family weekend," he said, smooth as oil. Yvette echoed him. "To togetherness." And Janelle, 26, honey blonde, wrapped in a green sweater like innocence, smiled as if she belonged in my seat. I raised my glass last. The wine tasted like oak and something bitter underneath. Janelle turned toward me. "I really hope this isn't awkward." "It's fine," I said, because the performance mattered. Because a woman who reacts is a woman who can be labeled. Marcus watched my face like he was waiting for the crack. When it didn't come, his mouth tightened and smoothed again. Yvette sat in her armchair like a judge. "Danny's always been so composed," she said. "Haven't you, dear?" Composed. It sounded like praise, but it was a leash. The black suitcase by the coat rack didn't move. It sat there like a quiet threat. She hadn't just stopped by. They'd planned for her. Around 10, Marcus stood. "We should turn in." Yvette nodded. "Big day tomorrow." "Boat ride," Marcus said quickly. "Lunch. Relaxing." relaxing, like he could speak it into truth. Janelle's smile lingered on me. Night, Danny. Upstairs, Marcus followed behind me, steps measured. Halfway up, he said quietly, Don't embarrass me. I wasn't planning to, I said. In our room, he shut the door and leaned on it, scanning my face like he was reading weather. You're quiet. I'm tired. He changed in silence. When I went into the bathroom, I turned the faucet on low for cover and checked the recorder hidden in my bra. Red light blinking. Still recording. Evidence. Insurance. A way to keep reality from being rewritten. I lay down facing away from Marcus and listened to the house. At first, only the fan and the distant slap of lake water. Then a low laugh from downstairs. Janelle's laugh, Marcus's voice, softer than he used with me, murmuring something I couldn't make out. A pause. A door opening, then closing. My stomach went cold. Marcus's hand slid across my waist, possessive, not tender. A reminder, I'm right here. Don't move. Eventually, his breathing deepened. He fell asleep like a man who believed nothing could touch him. I eased out of bed and tried the door. Locked. My throat tightened, but panic would only give them noise. I leaned close to the seam and heard a whisper in the hall. Yvette's voice, thin as wire. She can't leave tonight. I backed away, sat on the edge of the bed, and forced my mind into a colder gear. Okay, Danny, don't fight the lock, learn the pattern. I opened notes and typed, door locked from outside. 12:41 a.m., 2 voices in hall. Morning arrived pale and cheerful like a lie. Marcus acted like we were on vacation. Sleep okay? Fine, I said. Downstairs, Yvette had the table set with the kind of precision that felt like a warning. Janelle sat already, fresh and bright. Marcus kissed Yvette's cheek, then kissed my forehead. Softly, publicly, like a stamp that said property. Over coffee, Yvette said, After lunch, we'll handle the paperwork. There it is, I said lightly, and watched her eyes narrow. Marcus cut in casual. Mom wants to update the cabin documents. Add your name? A gift, security, the bait. I'll look later, I said. We'll look together, he corrected. By noon, we were on the pontoon boat. The lake was dark, the air wet. Marcus steered us into a narrow cove where trees leaned over the water like claws. The engine cut. Silence dropped, thick and unnatural. Yvette turned toward me. Danny, we wanted to talk about the future. Marcus pulled a manila envelope from the console and held it out. Sign these. Not review, not discuss, sign. I opened the folder and saw the phrase that made my mouth go dry. Power of attorney. I looked up. This isn't cabin paperwork. It's routine, Marcus said. Yvette's smile thinned. It protects you. It controls me, I answered. Marcus's voice softened into something dangerous. You trust me, don't you? If I did, we wouldn't be in the middle of a lake, I said. The temperature shifted. Marcus didn't like challenge in front of an audience, especially his audience. Yvette leaned in, voice low. Don't force Marcus to handle you. Handle you? Like I was an animal. I stared at the shoreline. Mist, trees, no other boats. So this was the plan. Get me isolated, pressure me, then call me unstable when I refuse. I closed the folder and set it on my lap. I'm not signing power of attorney on a boat. Marcus's eyes went darker. Then we sit here until you do. He left the engine off. The silence was a tool. My fingers found the recorder under my hoodie, still running, catching every word. No, I said. Marcus stared at me, then started the engine with deliberate slowness. Fine, he said. We'll do this at the cabin. Back at the house, he walked beside me too close. You think you're clever, he murmured. We'll see. Lunch in town was a reset attempt. Yvette chatted with strangers. Marcus ordered for me. Janelle smiled too wide. In the cafe bathroom, I replayed 10 seconds of audio. Marcus's sign. Yvette's, handle you. My no. Reality, preserved. Back at the cabin, Yvette placed the envelope on the dining table like a centerpiece. Marcus sat at the head, Janelle at his right, me opposite, like a defendant. He slid a pen toward me. Sign. I read again. Medical decisions, financial decisions, property transfers, incapacitated. My chest tightened. No. Marcus stood, chair scraping loud in the sudden hush. He walked around behind my chair, leaned close to my ear. Do you want to do this in front of them? He whispered. Move away from me, I said. He chuckled softly. See? Emotional. Yvette sighed. Danny, you're making a spectacle. Janelle's face had gone pale. The shine of her confidence cracked, just a little. I stood slowly. I'm not signing anything today. Marcus's eyes flashed. Sit down. No. For a second, I thought he might grab me, but witnesses change behavior. Marcus smiled tight. Fine, he said. We'll talk later. Upstairs, my hands shook for exactly 5 seconds. Then I moved. I'd printed a paper map the night before, the way you do when you don't trust batteries or bars. Lake Merrow Ranger Outpost, 2 miles down the road. I pulled on sneakers and a hoodie, slid the recorder back into my bra, and slipped into the hallway. Downstairs, I heard Marcus's low voice and Yvette's sharp whisper. Remind her who she is. I went for the back door, steady pace. No running. Running admits fear. In the mudroom, cold air hit my face like freedom. Then Marcus's voice behind me. Where are you going? I turned. He stood in the kitchen doorway, blocking my path back inside. His expression was almost polite. Walk, I said. Fresh air. Alone? He asked. Yes. Danny, he said softly, don't do something stupid. Like signing power of attorney? I asked. His smile vanished. Don't test me. I held his gaze. Move. For a moment, he didn't. Then he stepped aside as if granting permission. He thought he was still steering. I walked fast along the gravel road, lungs burning, trees swallowed sound. The sky pressed low. A black SUV rolled up beside me. Marcus's. Window down. Get in, he said. No. He rolled ahead and stopped across the road, blocking me. He got out, hands in pockets, posture relaxed like he was waiting for me to come to my senses. No witnesses, no signal, just trees and damp gravel. You're embarrassing me, he said. Move your car. He smiled. Or what? I'll keep walking. You can't, he said, quiet. I'll carry you back if I have to. My mouth went dry. Don't touch me. He stepped closer. Look at you. All tough all of a sudden. He reached for my wrist. I stepped back fast. Let go of me, I said loudly, into the empty air, making the moment public even without people. His fingers still brushed my skin. The grip tightened. Ownership. Then, an engine in the distance. A pickup approaching. Marcus's posture changed instantly, smoothing into normal. The pickup slowed. A middle-aged man leaned out. Everything okay here? Marcus smiled bright. Just a misunderstanding. My wife's upset. I looked at the driver and kept my voice calm. No. Everything is not okay. Is the ranger station nearby? The man nodded. About 1.5 miles that way. Marcus's smile cracked. We don't need the ranger. I lifted my wrist slightly, letting the driver see the red mark. Not dramatic, just real. The driver's expression tightened. Ma'am, you want me to call someone? Can you follow slow while I walk? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I can do that. Marcus stepped back, trapped by the witness. I walked past his SUV and kept going. The pickup crawled behind me like a protective shadow. Marcus followed behind it, forced into patience. A sign appeared, Lake Merrow Ranger Outpost. Relief hit hard enough to make my knees weak. A ranger in a dark green uniform stepped out. Afternoon, can I help you? Yes. I said. I need a witness. Marcus's SUV rolled into the lot behind the pickup. Marcus climbed out wearing his public face like armor. I'm Ranger Carter, the man said. Ma'am, what's your name? Danielle Brooks, I said. My husband locked my bedroom door from the outside last night. Today he tried to pressure me into signing power of attorney documents. Ranger Carter's gaze sharpened. Are you injured? I lifted my wrist. He grabbed me just now. Marcus laughed too loud. This is insane. She's emotional. Ranger Carter held up a hand. Sir, stop right there. To me, he asked, do you feel safe going back with him? No, I said. The word fell heavy in the small lot, like a verdict. Ranger Carter nodded once. Come inside. We'll document. Inside, the outpost smelled like coffee and paper. I played the audio on my recorder. Marcus's sign. Yvette's handle you. My no. Ranger Carter's face went colder. Okay, he said. We're going to escort you back to retrieve essentials and your vehicle, public and documented. Back at the cabin, Yvette appeared on the porch with a smile too sharp. Janelle stood behind her, pale. Ranger Carter walked beside me as I packed fast. Purse, charger, folder of printed statements, the small suitcase I'd hidden. Evidence, packed like a passport. Downstairs, Marcus tried to step toward me. Ranger Carter moved between us immediately. Sir, stop! Marcus's jaw worked. She's my wife. She's a person, Ranger Carter said, calm. And she said no. I pulled out of the driveway without looking back. The gravel spit under my tires as the cabin vanished behind trees. For the first mile, I drove like I was still being watched. Because I was. My shoulders stayed high. My breath stayed shallow. Every time a branch tapped another branch in the wind, my body flinched like it was a knuckle on a door. At the first bend, I checked the mirror. A black SUV eased out behind me. Marcus. Men like him don't lose control and go home. They chase the leash. I forced my speed steady. No swerving, no panic. If I drove like a frightened woman, I'd become the story he'd been rehearsing since breakfast. Unstable, hysterical, confused. Service flickered on and off. With one thin bar, my phone spat out 3 messages in a row. Marcus. Danny, come back. We can talk like adults. Yvette. This behavior is alarming. You need help. We are praying for you. Unknown number. Don't make this ugly. Adults. Praying ugly. 3 different masks for the same demand. Return to your place. I didn't reply. I took screenshots. A faded sign for a gas station appeared. Last stop before the highway. I didn't need fuel, but I pulled in anyway. Light and people mattered more than a full tank. I parked under cameras. Marcus's SUV rolled in seconds later and angled 2 spaces away. He stayed inside for a moment, as if deciding which version of himself to wear. My phone rang. Sister, Renee. I answered fast. Renee. Her voice was sharp with worry. Danny, what's going on? A ranger called me. I left, I said. I'm driving out. Marcus followed. Silence. Then, power of attorney? Yes. Renee exhaled hard. Stay in your car. Lock the doors. Text me your location. I'm under cameras, I said, eyes on the mirror. Marcus got out. He moved with calm precision, coffee in hand, like a man who knew strangers always believed the husband first. He walked to my window and tapped twice. Friendly, polite, a tap designed for witnesses. I stared forward and said loudly so anyone nearby could hear, I'm on the phone with my sister. Marcus's smile twitched. He peered in, then stepped back, palms open. See? I'm harmless. Renee's voice hissed through the speaker. Do not roll the window down. I won't, I whispered. Marcus turned away, walked toward the store, then doubled back to his SUV like he'd remembered he was late to ruin my life. I started my engine and pulled out slow and controlled. He followed. County road became state highway. Trees thinned into fields, then gathered again. The sky stayed gray, heavy as wet wool. Renee stayed on the line as long as service allowed, then texted instructions when calls dropped. Keep steady, stay public, stop only where there are cameras. She called a deputy in the county I was passing through and gave him my plate number. It felt surreal. My sister coordinating safety like we were planning a storm evacuation instead of a marriage. At a busy rest stop, a patrol car rolled in and parked near my bumper. A deputy approached my window. "Ma'am, you feel safe?" he asked. "No," I said. His gaze flicked to Marcus's SUV, a row back. Marcus was already out, smiling, hands open, rehearsed concern. The deputy spoke to him, then returned to me. "You're free to go," he said. "If he continues to follow, call 911. I'll document this contact." Marcus watched from across the lot, jaw tight under the smile. When I pulled out, he didn't follow immediately. He waited 30 seconds, just long enough to look reasonable. Then he merged behind me again. The chase wasn't loud. That was the point. Loud chases bring sirens. Quiet chases bring doubt. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a new text. "Marcus, if you keep this up, I'll have no choice." Marcus, "Mom is contacting your doctor. You're not well." My stomach dropped. He wasn't trying to convince me anymore. He was trying to label me. Renee texted back instantly when I forwarded the screenshots. "He's building a paper trail. Keep everything. Don't respond." So I didn't. By early evening, exhaustion started making small mistakes for me, drifting a little in my lane, blinking too slow. Renee insisted on a motel halfway. I checked into a place with harsh lights and a lobby that smelled like bleach. I parked under another camera and dragged my suitcase inside. In the room, I locked the deadbolt and wedged a chair under the handle like a cliché I'd once judged. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the recorder in my palm. This little device held the sound of my life breaking. At 9:12 p.m., an email from Yvette arrived. Subject: urgent, medical concern. She wrote about my recent volatility, my confusion, my increasing paranoia. She wrote that Marcus was deeply concerned. She wrote that they would pursue appropriate care if I refused. Care. The prettiest word for a cage. She'd copied my therapist. My throat tightened until swallowing hurt. I forwarded the email to Renee and saved it to a folder labeled Evidence. Then another notification hit. A calendar invite from Marcus. Wellness evaluation, Dr. L. Harkins. I stared at it, cold blooming under my ribs. He had scheduled an evaluation for me like I was a broken appliance. I declined the invite and wrote, "I do not consent. I am safe. I left due to coercion and unlawful restraint. Please do not disclose any information to my husband." Then I changed every password I could think of. Email, banking, cloud storage. Anything Marcus had ever had, because marriage is shared. At 10:28 p.m., my bank app locked me out. Panic flashed, sharp and bright. I called the fraud line. After 10 minutes of hold music, a supervisor came on and said carefully, "Ma'am, there is a request on your account from your spouse to place a temporary hold. He stated you may be acting under duress." My skin went ice cold. "I am not under duress," I said. "Remove it. Document this call." The supervisor asked questions, verified my identity again, and finally lifted the hold. "Open a new account in your name only as soon as possible," she added. As soon as possible meant now. I opened one in the app, hands shaking. At 11:19 p.m., my phone buzzed with a new message from the unknown number. "You can't run. We'll bring you home." I stared at the words until they blurred, then forced myself back into motion. Fear is loud. Logistics are quieter. In the parking lot, under a buzzing light, I crouched by my rear bumper and found it within a minute. A small black tracker magnetized to the frame. My breath stopped. I photographed it, then pulled it off and wrapped it in a napkin. Back in the room, I called the non-emergency line and reported it. The dispatcher's tone changed when I said, "My husband is following me, and he's trying to claim I'm mentally unstable." That night, I slept in shallow pieces, waking to every hallway sound, every plumbing knock, every imagined footstep. At 5:32 a.m., my therapist emailed. Subject: concerned. She said she'd received Yvette's message. She reminded me she couldn't discuss my care with anyone without my consent. She asked if I was safe. I answered immediately, "I'm safe. I left due to coercion and unlawful restraint. Please do not disclose any information to Marcus or his mother. At dawn, I drove again. Ordinary things returned: billboards, commuters, a sunrise trying to look innocent. Ordinary is the strangest thing after a weekend that felt like a sealed room. Just after noon, I reached Houston. Renee met me at her door and held me so tight it hurt, and I let it, because pain can be grounding when your mind is floating. In her kitchen, I opened a new email from Marcus's law firm. Subject: Notice of Concern, Emergency Petition, attached, a PDF. Emergency petition for evaluation and temporary guardianship. He was petitioning for authority over my medical decisions and finances, for my protection. He claimed I had paranoid delusions, that I believed he was conspiring against me, that I was a danger to myself. Yvette's affidavit was attached, neat and confident, as if she was signing a holiday card. Renee's jaw clenched. He's trying to declare you incompetent. Yes, I whispered. Renee slid her laptop toward me. Then we find a lawyer who eats men like him for breakfast. By mid-afternoon, we were in a downtown office with a woman named Camille Holloway, silver hair, sharp eyes, and a framed quote on her wall. Document everything. Camille read the petition without blinking. Then she looked up. Do you have counter evidence? I placed the recorder on her desk. Camille's brows lifted slightly. Good. Play it. Marcus's voice filled the office. Sign these. Yvette's voice. Don't force Marcus to handle you. My voice. No. When it ended, Camille leaned back and exhaled slowly. This is duress, she said. And the locked door matters. So does the tracker. So does your timeline. Timeline. Of course! A case is a story that survives cross-examination. Camille spoke in bullet points: protective order, opposition to guardianship, separate accounts, secure documents, no contact except through counsel. She warned me that Marcus would bait me into looking unstable, that he'd twist anger into pathology. Then I won't give him anger, I said, surprised at how calm my voice sounded. Camille nodded once. Good. Give him proof. Camille asked for the ranger incident number, the deputy contact at the rest stop, the motel's address, the tracker photos. When I pulled up the images on my phone, she zoomed in on the serial marking with the focus of someone reading a suspect's fingerprints. This isn't an AirTag, she said. This is commercial. Someone paid for this. Someone planned. Renee's hands curled into fists. He's an accountant, she said, like the word itself was a crime. He knows how to hide money. Camille's eyes flicked to me. Has your husband ever asked you to sign anything before? Not this dramatic. Smaller things. My mouth went dry. Yes, I admitted. Refinance, paperwork, account updates. Just initial here. He always said it was faster if I didn't read everything. Camille nodded, as if she'd expected that. Do you have copies? Not of those, I said, but I have access to our shared email, if he didn't change the password yet. Check, she said. Right now. My fingers hesitated over the phone screen. Even holding the device felt like touching a wire that might still be live, but I opened my email and searched Marcus's favorite subject lines. DocuSign. Action required. E-signature. Results stacked like a confession. One email stood out because it wasn't from a bank. It was from a company I didn't recognize. Subject: Confirmation. Limited liability agreement. I opened it. The attachment name made my stomach sink. Brooks Family Holdings, LLC. Brooks, my last name. A company in my name. Renee leaned closer. What is that? I don't know, I whispered. Camille's voice stayed calm. Download it. Do not click anything else. Just download. The PDF opened with my name printed neatly at the top, as if it belonged there. The document claimed I was a managing member of a holding company formed 2 years ago. 2 years. The signatures section showed a digital signature. Mine. My name. My initials. A signature I did not remember making. My throat tightened. That's not... It's either forged, Camille said, or you were coerced into signing without understanding. Renee looked up at me, eyes wet. How many things did you sign? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the number didn't matter as much as the realization that Marcus had been building structures under my feet while I lived on the surface of my life, believing the floor was solid. Camille took a pen and wrote a list on a legal pad. LLC documents, POA attempt, tracker, unlawful restraint, coercion audio, guardianship petition. Here's what he's doing, she said, tapping the page. He's trying to take control quickly and make you look incapable, so the court trusts him with your finances while he moves things around. Renee's voice shook. Can he do that? Camille's eyes stayed hard. He can try, and he can do damage while he tries. That's why we move faster. She had me sign a retainer agreement. Ironic, the way my hand hovered before I wrote my name. Camille noticed. You're allowed to read it, she said gently. I read every line, twice. When I signed, my name felt heavier, like it finally belonged to me again. Before we left, Camille handed me a small white card. This is an advocate line, she said. Not because you need permission to leave, because you deserve support while you do. In the elevator down, my stomach rolled with delayed emotion. I hadn't cried at the cabin. I hadn't cried on the road. I hadn't cried under the motel's buzzing lights. But inside Renee's safe house, with paperwork shifting into place, my body tried to release what it had held. Renee squeezed my hand. You're doing it, she whispered. At home that evening, Renee cooked soup I barely tasted. I sat at her table with my laptop open and the recorder beside it, turning my life into files. I created folders like I was building a bunker. Audio, screenshots, emails, photos, timeline, legal. The recorder's files had timestamps. The boat audio ended at 12:18 p.m. The dining table audio began at 3:02 p.m. The gap between them looked small on screen and huge in my memory. At 8:44 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Janelle, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Yvette said you were sick. Marcus said you were dangerous. Please believe me. Janelle. He's saying you threatened him. He's saying you hit him. My skin went cold. He was reversing the bruise onto me, turning my refusal into violence. Renee read over my shoulder and swore, a sharp word that sounded like protection. Screenshot, she said. I did. Then I put the phone face down like it was hot. Camille's voice echoed, he will bait you. He will twist anger into pathology. So I didn't answer Janelle. I didn't defend myself. I didn't try to explain. Explaining is what Marcus thrived on, the endless loop where you justify yourself until you're exhausted and he's refreshed. Instead, I called Ranger Carter and asked for the incident report number again, just to make sure it existed outside my memory. Ranger Carter's voice was steady. We've got it logged, he said. And ma'am, you did the right thing coming in. After I hung up, I listened to the voicemail from Marcus I'd been avoiding. I needed to know what he was telling the world. His voice, calm and intimate, like a bedtime story with a blade inside it. Danny, you're scaring people. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. Come home, we'll get you help. If you don't, I'll have to protect you from yourself. You know I can. You know I can. I saved it. Renee watched me, eyes fierce. He thinks that line still works, she said. I swallowed hard. It worked for years. That night, I tried to sleep, but my body kept replaying the lock clicking. Every creak in Renee's hallway sounded like a step approaching. Every soft house noise sounded like the beginning of something. At 2:13 a.m., Renee's doorbell camera pinged her phone. We watched the feed together from the couch, wrapped in a blanket like children watching a scary movie. A man stood on the porch holding a folder and clipboard. Process server. Renee's hand tightened around her phone. She spoke through the intercom. Who is it? Legal documents for Danielle Brooks, he said, bored, as if delivering a pizza. The bell rang again, louder. Compliance by volume. Renee didn't open the door. She ended the intercom and watched the man stand there, then walk away. No papers left behind. But the message was clear. Marcus knew where I was, and he wanted me to feel it. I sat there in the glow of the security feed and realized something else too. Something colder than fear. The tracker on my car hadn't been about finding me. It had been about reminding me I could always be found. A collar, not a compass. When the porch went empty again, Renee locked the door again, even though it was already locked. Then she sat beside me and said, "We're changing the rules." In the dark, I opened a new document on the laptop and titled it, "The Truth." Under it, I wrote the first sentence of the timeline with the precision of a narrator stating the facts before the music swells. Because if Marcus wanted to tell the world I was unstable, I would make stability my weapon. And if he wanted to drag me into court, I would arrive with timestamps and receipts instead of tears. The next morning, Camille called before I'd finished my coffee. "I pulled the property records for Lake Marrow," she said. "Your name isn't on anything. Marcus's name isn't either. It's all in Yvette's trust." "That doesn't surprise me," I said. "What surprised me," Camille continued, "is how many times that cabin address shows up in public records. Noise complaints, a welfare check, a domestic call from 8 years ago." My stomach tightened. "A domestic call?" "Not filed under your name," she said. "Another woman. Different spouse. Same family." Renee's eyes widened across the table. Camilla's voice stayed clinical, but there was something grim under it. "The report is thin. The responding officer wrote that the complainant recanted and left the area. No follow-up. But the detail that caught my eye was this. The door was locked from the outside." A cold wave slid through me, so sharp it felt like nausea. It wasn't new. It was a method. Camille paused. "Danny, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it so you understand you're not imagining patterns. They repeat." I stared at the kitchen wall, at Renee's magnet collection on the fridge, at the ordinary proof of a safe life. "So I'm not the first," I whispered. "No," Camille said. "And you won't be the last if we don't stop it." After the call, I sat very still. In my head, I saw the lake again. Mist over water, trees like claws, silence thick as restraint. I thought of the locked door and the whispered line in the hall. "She can't leave tonight." Maybe they hadn't been talking about me in general. Maybe they'd been quoting history. Renee touched my hand. "Hey," she said softly. "You're here. You got out." I nodded, but the chill stayed. Because leaving a trap doesn't erase the trap maker. It only changes the arena. By afternoon, Camille filed an emergency response. She emailed me the stamped copies. Opposition to guardianship, motion for protective order, request for temporary financial restraints. The PDFs looked sterile, but my heart beat hard seeing my name on them beside words like coercion and intimidation. "The hearing will be fast," Camille warned. "Could be within days." Days! My body understood that word as a countdown. That night, my inbox filled with Marcus's new tone. Less pleading, more official. Subject lines that sounded like corporate memos. Notice, demand, final opportunity. One message ended with a sentence that didn't bother to hide the threat anymore. "If you don't cooperate, the court will make you." I saved it, filed it, and shut the laptop with a slow, deliberate click. Like closing a door, I was finally allowed to lock from my side. At 1:09 a.m., I replayed the boat audio again, not for drama, but for calibration. Each time Marcus said sign, my spine straightened a little more. Each time I said no, the words sounded less like rebellion and more like a boundary becoming real. In the dark, alone. I stared at the blinking cursor on my timeline document and understood the cruel elegance of Marcus's plan. If he could make the court believe I was unwell, every refusal would become evidence against me. So I wrote anyway. Dates, times, words, bruises, trackers, locks. Because the coldest thing about being controlled isn't the hand on your wrist. It's the story they tell afterward. and I was done letting them narrate. Tomorrow, Camille would file more motions, and Marcus would file more lies. But tonight, in Renee's quiet kitchen, I listened to my own recorded no and felt something unfamiliar settle in. Certainty, not hope. Certainty. Court could wait. I couldn't. The courthouse felt like winter, even though Houston was humid outside. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, steady as a lie, and every hallway sounded like shoes moving toward consequences. Renee stayed close at my side, not holding my hand, just near enough that I could remember I wasn't alone. Camille met us outside courtroom 3B with a folder thick enough to change a life. "Emergency docket moves fast," she said. "You let the document speak. If he tries to bait you, you become boring." Across the hall, Marcus arrived with Yvette and a man in a navy suit. His attorney, Keen. Marcus looked polished, calm, built for being believed. Yvette's pearls caught the harsh light like tiny teeth. They didn't come to reconcile. They came to label me. The bailiff opened the door. Brooks matter, temporary guardianship, and protective order. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than television and meaner for it. No drama, no music, just wood paneling, a judge's bench, and two tables facing each other like opposing stories. Judge Alvarez entered, mid-60s, silver hair pulled tight, eyes sharp with the fatigue of people who've seen every excuse. We stood, we sat. The air hummed. Keen spoke first. "Your Honor, Mr. Brooks is concerned for his wife's well-being. She fled the marital home, claims she's being tracked, records conversations, and refuses contact. We request temporary guardianship for her safety." Safety. Always that word. Wrapped around a cage. Camille rose. "Your Honor, this petition is retaliatory and coercive. My client is not unstable. She is escaping pressure to sign legal documents transferring control of her finances and medical decisions. We request denial of guardianship and an emergency protective order." Judge Alvarez looked at me. "Ms. Brooks, do you understand why you're here?" "Yes," I said. "My husband is trying to use the court to control me." Marcus made a soft, scoffing sound, small enough to pass as disbelief. Judge Alvarez didn't look at him. "Evidence," the judge said. Keen called Marcus first. Marcus walked to the stand like he owned it, swore in, then folded his hands as if he was praying. "My wife has been under stress," he said gently. "She's become paranoid. She believes I'm cheating. She thinks someone is tracking her. She left suddenly and won't speak to me. I'm worried she may harm herself." I kept my eyes on the clock. Second hand ticking. Count the lie. Don't absorb it. Judge Alvarez asked, "Mr. Brooks, have you threatened your wife?" "No, Your Honor," Marcus said, perfectly timed. Camille stood. Cross-examination. Her voice stayed calm, almost boring. "Mr. Brooks, did you lock your wife's bedroom door from the outside on January 10th at Lake Merrow?" Marcus blinked once. "No." Camille held up a document. Ranger Carter's incident log states Ms. Brooks reported the door was locked from the outside and requested assistance. Are you claiming she fabricated that? Marcus spread his hands. "She misunderstood. The cabin doors stick. My mother—" "Did you pressure her to sign power of attorney documents?" Camille cut in. "No." Camille tapped her phone. The courtroom filled with sound, clean, unforgiving. "Sign these. Don't force Marcus to handle you." "No." The audio made the room colder. Marcus's face went tight, like the skin didn't fit anymore. Camille asked, "Is that your voice telling her to sign?" "It sounds like me," Marcus said. "And the voice saying, 'Handle you,' your mother?" Camille asked. Keen objected. "Speculation." Judge Alvarez leaned forward. "Answer." Marcus's eyes flicked to Yvette. "It could be." Yvette didn't move. Camille lifted a photo. "And is this a misunderstanding too?" The image showed a black tracker magnetized to the underside of my car. Serial markings visible. Keen stood. "Relevance? Overruled," Judge Alvarez said. "Continue." Marcus's voice sharpened. I don't know anything about that. Camille nodded once, like she expected that line. We obtained purchase records through law enforcement. The tracking account is linked to an email address associated with Brooks Family Holdings, LLC, formed under Ms. Brooks's maiden name. Silence spread through the courtroom like spilled ink. Marcus swallowed. That's business. Tax reasons. Camille slid a signature page toward the clerk. Your Honor, an LLC exists in my client's name with her digital signature. She does not recall signing. We believe coercion or forgery. Judge Alvarez's gaze hardened. Mr. Brooks, why is your wife's identity used to form a holding company? Marcus leaned into the script again. To protect her. Camilla's voice stayed flat. Protect her like power of attorney. Protect her like guardianship. Protect her like a locked door. Keene tried to redirect, but Judge Alvarez raised a hand. Ms. Holloway, call your witness. Camille called Ranger Carter on speaker. He confirmed the incident, confirmed he escorted me to retrieve essentials because I said I did not feel safe. Then Camille called the deputy, who'd met us at the highway rest stop. He confirmed Marcus's vehicle had been trailing mine, and that I appeared calm while Marcus was very invested in controlling the situation. Keene's jaw tightened with every sentence. Camille's last witness walked in and turned Marcus's posture rigid. Ms. Janelle Hart, Camille said. Janelle, honey blonde in a plain blazer, looked nothing like the confident woman at the cabin. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling as she swore in. Camille asked gently, Ms. Hart, do you work with Mr. Brooks? Yes. Were you romantically involved with him? Janelle swallowed. I was. He told me they were basically separated. Marcus stared at the table, jaw clenched. Janelle's voice shook. He said his wife was unstable, that she might accuse him of abuse. He told me his mother had a plan to get her evaluated so she couldn't take money or make him look bad. Yvette's pearls looked dull now. Heavy. Keene objected. Hearsay, Camille answered, calm. Admission of intent, Your Honor. We also have corroborating documentation. Judge Alvarez allowed it. Janelle continued, words spilling now that they'd started. He said it would be easier if she was isolated. He said, if she signs on the water, she can't claim later she didn't understand. My stomach rolled, slow and sick. Not surprise. Confirmation. Camille T. asked, do you have proof of these statements? Janelle held up her phone. Texts. And he told me not to worry because his mom had handled women like her before. Before. Judge Alvarez's eyes narrowed. Handled before? Janelle nodded. That's what he said. The judge looked at Marcus for a long moment, the kind of silence that forces a man to feel small without anyone raising a voice. Mr. Brooks, Judge Alvarez said, do you still believe guardianship is appropriate? Marcus's voice came out tight. She's being manipulated. Judge Alvarez made a note. Or she's being freed. Keene started to speak, but the judge held up a hand and began ruling as if she'd already decided the moment the audio played. This court does not grant guardianship on vague concern emails, Judge Alvarez said, especially where evidence suggests coercion and financial motive. Temporary guardianship is denied. Air returned to my lungs like someone opened a window. An emergency protective order is granted, she continued. Mr. Brooks will have no contact with Ms. Brooks, directly or indirectly. He will remain 500 feet from her residence and workplace. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Marcus's face twitched, rage trapped behind etiquette. And given the financial irregularities presented, Judge Alvarez added, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order on marital assets, no transfers, no new accounts in Ms. Brooks' name, and no access to any entity formed using her identity without her written consent. Counsel will file follow-up motions regarding the LLC. Gavel. Next case. It was over in less than half an hour. The system didn't feel gentle, but for once it leaned the right way. Outside the courtroom, my knees tried to shake like delayed fear finally got a turn. Renee grabbed my arm. Breathe, she whispered. You did it. Camille handed me stamped copies. Effective immediately, she said. If he contacts you, we report it. Every time. Across the hall, Marcus stood with Keen and Yvette. His face was carved from anger he couldn't show fully in public. Yvette leaned close, whispering. Marcus looked at me with that familiar cold promise. This isn't over. Camille saw it. Don't look back. We left. That night in Renee's apartment, I showered until my skin turned pink, like I could wash off Lake Marrow and the sound of a lock. I set my phone on the table and watched it like it might bite. It stayed silent for hours. Then, at 11:47 p.m., a text slid through from an unknown number. You can't hide behind paper forever. My heartbeat didn't spike the way it used to. It stayed steady, like my body had finally learned the new rule. Fear is useful only when it becomes documentation. I screenshotted the message and sent it to Camille. Her reply came fast. Violation. We file in the morning. I opened my timeline document and typed, January 14th, 11:47 p.m. Threat text after EPO granted. Screenshot saved. Sent to counsel. Then I added one more line beneath it, for the part of me that still woke up expecting footsteps in the hall. He is afraid of the record. Camille didn't let the moment sit. At 7:10 a.m., she had me on a three-way call with Officer Salazar, reading the protective order number, confirming the timestamp, logging the violation. The officer's voice was polite, tired, the tone of someone who's heard this story too many times. Renee installed a cheap door camera that afternoon. It blinked blue in the hallway like an unblinking eye. She changed the Wi-Fi name to something ordinary, printer, because abusers notice anything that looks like defense. We taped a copy of the order inside the kitchen cabinet behind the cereal, right where my hand could find it fast. Muscle memory, Camille called it. Train your body to reach for protection the way it used to reach for apology. Before bed, Camille texted me a photo she'd pulled from public records. A 5-year-old petition with Yvette's name on it, another woman's name beneath. The same phrases, erratic, concern, temporary guardianship, different wife, same trap. Yvette had practiced this. Marcus had inherited the method like furniture. I stared at the screenshot until the letters blurred. The cold podcast feeling wasn't fear anymore. It was clarity. They weren't shocked by my resistance. They were angry I'd learned their pattern in time. Outside the window, the city kept moving. Cars hissing on wet streets, a distant siren fading into ordinary night. Somewhere far away, Lake Marrow sat dark and still, holding the memory of doors locked from the outside. But I wasn't on the water anymore. I was on land with proof in my hands, and the court had finally said what my body always knew, no. The first night after the judge signed the order, I slept like a person learning a new language. Not peace, not yet, just silence that didn't demand anything from me. Renee left the hallway light on. The little door camera blinked blue, steady as a heartbeat. The protective order sat folded inside a kitchen cabinet behind the cereal, close enough to grab if the world tried to tilt again. At 2:06 a.m., my phone buzzed. I didn't jerk awake the way I used to. I didn't panic run through my mind for what I'd done wrong. I opened my eyes, stared at the ceiling, and waited for my body to catch up to reality. One notification. From Camille. Filed. That was it. A single word that meant Marcus's last text, you can't hide behind paper forever, was now part of a report, a number. A record that didn't care how handsome he looked at church, or how calm he sounded in court. I rolled over and exhaled slowly. My ribs still remembered the weekend, but my brain was finally starting to believe what my mouth had said in that courtroom, no. The next morning, Camille called while I stood at Renee's sink washing a mug that didn't belong to Marcus. The smallness of that detail hit me, my hands doing ordinary things without fear of being corrected. Here's the path forward, Camille said. We keep you safe, we keep your finances clean, and we take the mask off him in a way he can't talk his way out of. What about the LLC? I asked. We're filing to freeze it and audit it. If your signature was forged, it becomes fraud. If you were coerced, it becomes coercion. Either way, it's leverage. Leverage. That word used to sound like something men in suits owned. Now it sounded like a door opening. The hearing about the financial restraining order came 2 weeks later. No drama, no grand speeches, just documents and dates, and Marcus's face tightening each time Camille said serial number and account link and pattern. Judge Alvarez didn't smile when she signed the expanded order, but she signed. And sometimes, that's the kindest thing the world can do. Put a line in ink that says, enough. Marcus violated the protective order 3 more times after that. Not with big gestures, with whispers. A blocked number that still left a voicemail. A bouquet delivered to Renee's lobby with no card. The flowers too perfect, too symmetrical. Yvette's touch. A church friend texting me, Marcus is worried, please talk to him. Each attempt was a hook tossed into quiet water. And each time, I did what Camille trained me to do. Screenshot, save, forward, report. I turned his hunger for control into a paper trail that grew heavier than his charm. 3 months later, Marcus stood in court again, this time in front of a different judge, for contempt. He didn't look handsome then. He looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from realizing the old tricks don't work on someone who stopped playing the game. His attorney tried to argue misunderstandings. Accidental contact, concern. The judge didn't care. A protective order isn't a suggestion. It's a boundary with teeth. Marcus was fined, ordered into a certified batterer intervention program, and warned that the next violation would mean jail time. When the judge said the word jail, Marcus's eyes finally flickered with something real. Not love, not regret. Fear. After court, I walked out past him without looking. My legs still shook sometimes in elevators. My heart still raced when a man's footsteps fell into the same rhythm as Marcus's. Trauma doesn't vanish because a judge signs a paper, but it changes shape. It becomes something you learn to carry without letting it drive. The divorce took longer than I wanted. Paperwork, audits, hearings that felt like watching strangers debate my life. Yvette tried to paint me as unstable again. She mailed my therapist another concern letter. This time, my therapist wrote back, professional and cold. I have no clinical evidence to support your claims. Do not contact my office again. I framed that email, not because it was pretty, because it was true. The LLC audit revealed what Camille suspected. Accounts moving like shadows. Transactions routed through entities in my name, then cleaned and redistributed. Marcus had been using my identity as a glove to hold dirty things. When Camilo laid the evidence out, the mediator's face went stiff. Marcus's lawyer stopped smiling. And suddenly, Marcus wanted to settle quickly. Of course he did. Men like him love control until control becomes exposure. The settlement was simple in the end. The marriage dissolved, the LLC dissolved, my name scrubbed from every business structure Marcus had built in my shadow. I walked away with my share of assets, my own accounts, and a permanent protective order that didn't expire like mercy. On the day the final decree arrived, Renee didn't throw a party. She didn't pop champagne. She just stood in her kitchen, handed me the papers, and said quietly, "Read them." So I did. Every line. Because freedom isn't just leaving, freedom is never again signing your life away, because someone told you it was easier not to look. That night I drove alone for the first time in months. I didn't take the lake road. I didn't go anywhere dramatic. I went to a grocery store 10 minutes away and bought bananas and coffee and a cheap plant in a cracked ceramic pot. A plant Marcus would have called messy. I carried it home, set it on the windowsill in my new apartment, small, bright, imperfect, and watched the leaves tilt toward the light. The silence there felt different. Not strategic, not weaponized. Just mine. I still keep the recorder in a drawer. I still keep a folder labeled evidence in my cloud storage. Not because I live in fear, but because I respect what I survived. Sometimes, late at night, I replay that one clip. Sign these. No. It reminds me how cold control sounds when it's recorded. How small a boundary can be when it's spoken. How sharp it becomes when you refuse to take it back. The scariest part of my marriage wasn't the cabin. It wasn't the tracker. It wasn't even the locked door. It was how easily everyone would have believed them if I hadn't saved the truth while it was happening. So, if you're listening to this and you recognize the quiet kind of danger, the kind that wears a tie, smiles in public, and locks doors in private, hear me clearly. Silence doesn't have to mean surrender. Silence can mean strategy. And no can be the beginning of a life that finally belongs to you. If you stayed with me until the end, don't forget to hit like so more people find stories like this, subscribe for the next one, and drop a comment. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it there? Your voice matters here.